Yo, what is going on, everyone? It's GentooMan here, also known as Rainy, and today's story time is another sort of scary story. I know you guys have been liking these recently, so I thought I'd do another one, and I just remembered this one, so I thought you guys would enjoy it, so I'm gonna hop right into it. Now, at the start of high school, I was a weird-ass fucking dude. I mean, I wasn't that weird, but I was, like, the quiet kid who, like, looked super emo and shit. Like, I'd show up every day wearing, like, a black hoodie and just, like, black clothes, and I kind of just, like, keep to myself. Wouldn't really talk to people, just kind of, like, scrolling through my phone, doing shit. For the most part, I'd, like, read creepypastas and shit and listen to music, and that was me. Like, we all have that guy who you, like, think might be the school shooter. Yeah, that was me. So I remember I had my history class, the first class of the day, and I sat in the front of the class in, like, the front corner, but it was weird because, like, the corner that I was in was, like, sort of, like, half tucked into a wall, and, like, the teacher's desk's on the other side of the room, like, where he was teaching was, like, on the other side of the front of the room, if that makes sense. So I kind of had, like, my own little corner, and I was just kind of chilling there, you know, doing my thing. I did all my work because, like, I didn't really have any friends to talk to distract me, so I usually got my shit done and kind of just, like, did whatever it was I was going to do, which a lot of the time was, like, read creepypastas or watch movies on my phone and stuff. I was relatively content just, like, keeping to myself. Like, I had moved schools this year, so, like, I wasn't at the same school with all my friends from the previous years, so I was kind of just keeping to myself. But every so often, this girl who sat right behind me, we'll call her Anna for the sake of this video, she would occasionally, like, ask me, you know, what did you get for this question? Like, just be like, hey, just, like, I want another opinion for, like, me and my friend here. We're, like, debating what the answer to this question was. And I'd give them mine. Like, we didn't talk a lot, but we'd, like, talk here and there, you know? And then one day in my science class, my science teacher had decided that he was going to move around the tables and have people sit, or he didn't move around the tables, actually. He had us, like, because the tables were in, like, the center of the room, the desks, and then there was, like, the lab benches at the back of the room and, like, the sides. So he's like, for, like, a week or so, you're all sitting at, like, specific spots at a lab bench so you can do this project or whatever, and I just want you guys sitting this way. That's exactly what happens. That's how he puts us. He puts us all at this lab bench, and I got sat at this lab bench with a couple people that I had, like, seen here and there, and one of those people was Anna, and I ended up sitting down next to her because that's where I was seated. And, you know, she talked to me immediately. She's like, oh, hey, like, I know you. We're in the same, like, history class. I'm like, yeah, like, good to see you. Cool to be working with you, I guess. Yeah, I was a fucking ladies' man in this year of high school. Y'all don't even know. But you know me, I'm always back on my bullshit in some way, shape, or form. So a lot of the time we'd be sitting there. I'd be on my phone scrolling through whatever. And like I said, I read a lot of creepypastas. I don't know fucking why. That's, like, it's such a thing for, like, the quiet kid to read, is, like, scary stories. I don't know why, but it feels, like, so in character. But that's what I was doing one day, and I don't even remember what I was reading. I don't remember. It was something. I'm going to try and think of what it was. I want to say it was, like, Laughing Jack or something, but I don't actually know. But I was reading this, and there was, like, pictures on it as well. And Anna looked over at it, and she's like, oh, I like that story. And I'm like, oh, like, you've read this? She's like, oh, yeah, like, I read creepypastas all the time. They're awesome. Like, I love scary stories and, like, horror movies and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, yeah, me too. I asked her about, like, horror games because, you know, I'm a fucking nerd, and immediately, like, a girl talks to me. I'm like, oh, have you played this video game? Like I said, fucking ladies, man. I asked her about Outlast because I love Outlast. We all know that. She said she hadn't played it, but she'd heard of it. And we started, like, built a friendship off of that. Like, she'd recommend me stories, I'd recommend her stories, and we kind of just, like, talked. We sort of became, like, actually decent friends, which was surprising. Like, I never really thought I'd have that kind of friendship with this chick, but, like, it was fun. It was a nice little friendship, to be honest. Like, people always thought we had, like, a thing going, you know? Like, I sort of, like, hear her friends talking to her sometimes, like, oh, you have, like, a thing with the quiet kid and stuff. And, like, yeah, they're really calling me the quiet kid. That was, like, a real thing. But it wasn't even really, like, a thing, you know? Like, we didn't have, like, at least I didn't really have any, like, romantic interest in her or anything. She's just a cool girl. She was just fun to hang out with, fun to talk to. And, you know, time passed, and we, like, I don't really know if grew closer is the right word, but, like, we hung out more and more, and, like, we were just, like, really comfortable around each other, if that makes sense. So eventually, like, I'd hang out at her house, like, quite a few times. And it wasn't, like, weird or anything. Like, you know how sometimes you have relationships with, like, the opposite gender and you're like, hey, this is like weird because it feels like there's like romantic pressure or something. There just wasn't any of that. It was just like a homie who happened to be female. I remember one day I was hanging out at her house. I don't even remember what we were doing. I think we were like playing video games or something. And then her mom came home from work and she saw me, and like I'd been over a couple times. I'd met her mom. She's like, oh, hey, like, hey, Rainey, are you staying for dinner tonight? And I was like, I don't know, probably not. Like, I don't want to impose. I'll probably go home for dinner. Thanks for the invite, though. I really appreciate it. And she was like, oh, no, like, please stay. Like, we're just getting Papa John's tonight. And I don't know about you guys, but your boy can fuck up some Papa John's. I mean, Papa John's might fuck up my insides, but your boy can fuck up some Papa John's. So naturally, I stayed for said Papa John's. And over dinner, like, me and Anna were sort of just talking. It was like a pretty casual dinner, obviously, because you're having Papa John's. I don't really know if you can have Papa John's in a formal setting. Maybe you can. But we were just sort of talking about, like, creepypastas, you know, as we sort of bonded over. And ended up telling her that, like, my favorite creepypasta is 1999. I don't know if you guys have read that one, but it's about, it's a pretty famous one. It's about, like, a Canadian blogger, and he's, like, reliving, like, his childhood memories of, like, some, like, disturbed local TV show. It's really cool, actually. It was a really good story. She said she was, like, pretty sure she heard of it, but she didn't remember exactly what it was about. So I started telling her about it. And as I was doing that, her dad was like, oh, that reminds me of, like, a story from around here. Anna lived in, like, this little community that's, like, just outside of the town that I live in. It's like part of it, but it's like almost outside, so it's like more in the country, if that makes sense. And it's like its own little community, like almost like it's its own little town, but it's like still part of the town that I live in, you know what I mean? Like they have their own little like community stories there and stuff, you know, because like stuff gets around. And so her dad told us this story, and he told us there was this house that was like sort of near where Anna's house was. It was just sort of off into the trees and stuff. It's like long abandoned now, but years and years ago, some strange dude lived there, and he like make these like suits out of like taxidermied animals almost, if that makes sense. And they look like really weird and fucked up, but he just kind of like walk around in them and like scare people, I guess. Like I don't know if he actually like did anything criminal, but he definitely like freaked the fuck out of people. He said he had all sorts of them, like there was like a deer one, like a moose, and like a wolf and a bear. And he said he remembered it because if you haven't read 1999 or heard it, the like main villain, I guess you could call it, like the guy behind the TV show calls himself Mr. Bear, and he wears a bear costume. And his mom was kind of like, yeah, you're hilarious. Like, that's definitely not a real story. Like, that didn't actually happen. And the dad's like, oh, no, like, it really did. Like, it was actually a real thing. And they kind of, like, had a joke argument about it. Then we kind of, like, dropped it after a while and kind of just, like, moved on to other things. And I remember after dinner, I ended up we watched a movie, like, all four of us, like, me, Anna, and her parents. And we watched Us, I think, like, you know, the Jordan Peele movie. That's a pretty good movie, actually. We watched Us, and it was pretty late by the time the movie was done. And at the time, I believe my mom and my dad were out of town, so my grandma was staying with me and my siblings. And it was pretty late, and I didn't really want to find my way home, and I didn't want to, like, inconvenience Anna's parents to drive me home. So I kind of just texted my grandma, and I told her I'd be staying at my friend's house overnight. Obviously, I cleared it with Anna's parents first. It's like they were totally cool with it. Like, me and Anna had, like, nothing but a platonic friendship. They knew that. Their one rule was just, like, yeah, like, if you're gonna, like, stay over, just, like, don't stay in her room with her, like you can stay on the couch or something. And like that totally makes sense. Like I definitely understand that, being a young high school male hanging out with a young high school female. I can understand their concerns with that one. But yeah, we had like a purely platonic friendship, so they were okay with it. My grandma might not have been had she known that my friend was a girl, but she didn't know that. So she's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I'll see you tomorrow. So yeah, that's what I did. I stayed over at Anna's house. I just kind of relaxed on the couch. She got ready for bed and then went off to bed, and that was that. And I think like about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours went by of me trying to sleep, and I just couldn't get comfy. I mean, it probably didn't help that I was on a fucking couch, but I just couldn't get comfy. So I kind of just ended up like scrolling through my phone on and off and like trying to get comfy and sleep, but just it wasn't happening. Eventually, while I'm laying there, Anna comes out of her room, and she's like, yo, Rainey, you're still awake? And I'm like, yeah, like I can't really sleep. I'm having a bit of a tough time. She's like, yeah, me too. Like, you wanna do something in the meantime? I'm like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. Like, what do you want to do? You want to, like, play video games or something, or, like, watch a movie? And she's like, no, I had a better idea. How about we go try and find that abandoned house that my dad was talking about? And so I don't know why I had, like, zero reservations about going into the woods in the middle of the night, but I was just kind of like, fuck it, yeah, let's go. So that's exactly what we did. We got our shoes and coats on, and off we went out into the woods and went looking for this house. Now, we had, like, zero idea where we were going through these woods. Like, we just kind of, like, took off and were looking for this house. We weren't given, like, directions. There was no map or, like, anything like that. We just went, like, going through these woods, just looking for it. But luckily, they weren't that big, so we didn't have that much area to cover, but there was enough. I think it took us about an hour of, like, walking around, and we didn't find anything. And we were kind of pretty close to giving up. We're like, okay, it was clearly just a story. Like, there's nothing out here. Let's go back. Let's just, like, go back to bed. But as I was saying that, we were walking around, and probably about 10 minutes later, we found it. And it really wasn't very big. It was pretty small. The best way I can describe is, what's the hunter's name? Like Shaw or something from fucking Open Season. Remember his house? It looked a lot like that, actually, now that I think about it. And so naturally, we found it. We had come all this way. So we went in, and it was pretty abandoned. Like, the main floor had, like, not a lot of room. Like I said, it was a pretty small house. There was, like, not a lot in it. There was, like, a table and, like, what looked like it used to be a kitchen, but there wasn't a whole lot there, right? It was kind of just, like, basically an empty, old, like, rundown house. It did have a basement, so we went down into the basement and kind of just looked around. Like, the basement was really basic. There was, like, nothing down there. It was just, like, a concrete floor with, like, wooden walls that were all, like, run down and looked broken as fuck. And there was one door at the end of the basement. So we walked over to that door. Anna made me open it, because of course she did. And you will not believe what fell out as we opened it. It looked like a bear rug. It was a taxidermied bear with a zipper on the back. It was a fucking bear suit. There was a fucking bear suit that fell out of this tiny cabin in the woods. And behind them, there was a couple more of them. We kind of just look at each other, we're like, holy fuck, like, these exist. We looked at them, and there was a good couple of them. Like I said, there was, like, a deer, there was a like, a wolf and shit. Looked like there was one that was, like, a fucking raccoon and a beaver, but, like, raccoons and beavers aren't that big, so I don't know how the fuck that happened. But yeah, that was pretty much all there was. There was just those. Like, I wish I could say that, like, the story got so much scarier. There was someone in the house. There wasn't someone in the house, at least as far as we know. But something interesting did happen after that. Like, there wasn't a lot more in the house, so we left the house. And then I realized my phone wasn't in my pocket. So I went, like, running through the house again, and I didn't see my phone in there. And basically what we ended up having to do is Anna called my phone over and over and over so that we could try and, like, follow its ringtone, like, through the forest. As we were doing that, I shit you not, we saw, from a distance or not, every single one of those animals that had been made into those suits. We saw a deer, we saw a moose, we saw a wolf, we saw a bear, we saw a beaver, we saw a raccoon. We saw every single animal of the suits we saw. It was just a weird fucking coincidence. Like, every single suit, we saw the actual animal on our way back while looking for my phone. We ended up finding my phone and then getting back to Anna's house, no problem. And then kind of just, like, I laid back down on the couch, she went to bed, and we passed out. But yeah, I just thought that was a pretty wild story. Like, I guess nothing too crazy happened, but it was interesting. Like, it was just a crazy coincidence. So I thought you guys would enjoy hearing about it. Maybe the Mr. Bear dude from 1999 really does exist. I know Anna actually, like, has a picture of these suits, and I wish I could get it for you guys. Maybe I can, like, try and contact her to see if I can get it, if she even still has it. But I haven't, like, talked to her in a good couple of years now. But anyways, guys, that is going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed this story time. It's a bit of a longer one. I apologize for that. Unless you like longer stories, in which case, you're welcome. But leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new. You all know the drill at this point. Also, I just want to do a quick shout out, I guess, quickly to my friend Zusa. He's been a good friend of mine for most of my life, actually, and I've been playing video games a lot with him recently. Like, I might even be playing with him in this video. I actually don't know what gameplay I'm going to use for it yet, but he has a YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in the description, and I'll put the picture up on screen right now. He only has one video at the moment. He made it a while ago, but I think it'd be cool if he came back and did videos like with me and on his own and stuff. So yeah, go support his video. That'd be really cool if you guys could do that. But anyways, guys, that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm not going to do the whole outro again, but thank you all so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.